Hey everyone, welcome to the Invest With Nikkei Podcast, where we talk all about real estate, wealth building, and how to build your FIRE so you can have financial independence and retire early. Today, I have a super special guest with us. She is one of my closest people in my life, and I'm so excited to have her on. Today, we're talking about from the closing table to really cash flowing short-term rentals and the full operational stack that goes behind making sure you have a fully operational and healthy hospitality business. We're pulling back the curtain on something that most short-term rental investors seriously underestimate: the amount of work that it goes into setting up your back-end operations, your entire tech stack, creating automations and putting people and systems, into process. And it's like, once you have the property, you still have to turn it into an actual business that runs. And that means property management software, listings, photography, listing optimization, revenue management, permits, licensing, taxes, guest comms, communications, cleaning systems, maintenance systems, vendor management, remote operations, automations. All of those things go into that. And for a busy CEO, an executive, a doctor, who most of our clients are, high performing, high earning clients, building all this from scratch is literally like another full-time job. Not only do they have to learn the softwares, but then they have to build out everything and make it all sync together with their API integrations and make sure it's all functioning. And then they have to run the actual business. It's just a lot, right? And, this is where my girl, Rumi Gallie with STR Done For You, comes in. I'm so excited to have her on today. Tell everybody hello, Rumi, and tell them about you and your story and how you got started.
Hi, I'm Rumi. Thank you, Nikki. So I'm the founder of STR Done For You, and I got into short-term rental just over 10 years ago. I started off as a VA. I was just a VA. I applied for a job. I did guest communications only. And I was doing that part-time because, I was paying for my studies. I was studying law. And at that time, I didn't know that I wanted to do anything, with short-term rentals, but I fell in love with it. And I just started upskilling myself. I wanted to know more. I wanted to learn more. I used to see the listings that, our guests are checking in and out of. And I was like, how do we get that listing to look like that? I want to know. I want to know how do we put the listings on all of these platforms? I knew nothing. I upskilled myself. I was so inquisitive. I asked 10,000 questions to everybody that I didn't even know. I reached out in meetings. We'd have like team meetings, and the CEO and the owner would be then. I'm just the VA, like I'm the new girl. And I have so many questions, like I've been there for years. And they saw that, and then they gave me that, that freedom to kind of just poke around a little bit. And from there, that's how I started STR Done For You.
That is awesome. Yeah, that's something I will say, you started as my VA, right? And it's crazy to see the evolution of how you have grown. And I'm just so proud of you because you just
Thank you.
step in and you step up and you do whatever it takes. And you have this like incredible grit and persistence. And, that's why I trust to hand all my clients to you, because I know that you're going to stop at nothing to get it done, and maybe we aren't perfect. We're all humans and nothing
Yeah.
ever is perfect, but you are it's just incredible. So I'm so happy you started your own business. I'm so happy you're not
Thank
just
you.
VA anymore, because you obviously deserve so much more than that and you bring so much value. So tell
Yeah.
everybody, like, what is it that you do? Like, what's the magic sauce that you have?
Okay. So most investors think that when they close, that's it. We're closing short-term rental. This is going to be our income. We're going to make all this money. What they don't realize is that even before closing, there is a whole system and a whole process that needs to happen. I start your entire system build backwards. So the minute you are under contract, all of your clients that's reached out to me, they literally signed me up on the call, the first call, the first time I ever spoke to them. Like, we want you, we need you. What is your fee? Where do I send it? When can we start? So, and that is even before they closed, like they were just under contract. So what I do is I set up your entire system. Once you close that property, it's not just, okay, I own a house and I'm going to rent it. You own a property. You are a property manager. You own a business. Eventually it becomes passive aggressive income, but it's not started that way. It is a system that needs to be built. So I literally start up all your accounts from even your Gmail account or your email that you need for these accounts. I set up all of your OTAs, Airbnb, booking.com, VRBO. I integrate your PMS system, and my go-to is Owners. I set up your dynamic pricing. Now, a lot of investors and owners and hosts think that it's just a set it and leave it kind of thing. With short-term rental, you cannot just set your price and leave it. It is an optimization. It is a weekly strategy. And you need to position yourself and your listing in a way that people actually sees it. Airbnb works on an algorithm. So it doesn't matter how beautiful your house is. You can spend 400K on design and renos and upgrades. But if you start off wrong and your listing is not positioned properly, you're not going to get the revenue that you think you need to get or what you're expecting to do. So that is what I do. And even then, people think, okay, Airbnb pays all of my taxes. I can do this. Taxes and permits and being compliant is not just Airbnb pays my taxes. So that I also do. I start your compliance from even the get-go because it's a waiting game. You know, your STR registration, your DOR, your DBPR, it's a waiting game and it can take weeks. So I start all of that before you even close. And I get my revenue manager on board. We set your pricing. We do the weekly optimizations. I train my host. New hosts, you cannot just go live and leave it. It's a weekly thing. It's a daily thing. You need to train your AI. We use HostBuddy. 90% of the time, we're not really even responding because AI has become us. I've trained AI to become you, each client to their own. What I've also learned is that the way you design your listing and the way you optimize it and position it on all the OTAs, it plays a huge impact or plays a huge part of your bookings, your algorithms and your visibility on the OTAs and online. You need to make sure that your pictures are just as great as the actual design. I mean, the way you set your listings, your captions, your descriptions, your headlines, it needs to be SEO friendly. So these are things that I've been doing for so long that it is a situation where you close, you give Rumi the keys. Even before you give Rumi the keys, you give Rumi the go ahead, you blink and your listing is ready to go live. So that's what I do. There's a bit more in between that, but it will take a lot of time to explain all of that.
Yes, right. Yeah, it's like the old strategy is, you get under contract, you close, and then you start all your work and, you get it furnished and listed and launched. And it's like, every single day that your property is not listed and not getting booked is hundreds and depending on your property, thousands of dollars that is not coming in the door. It's like if you had a commercial storefront, your doors are not open. Your doors are not open. Customers cannot come in if your property is not live and listed and being marketed. And so our strategy that we've gotten is urgency is everything. Speed from contract to close to launch to list, that is really the key, because you could give yourself an extra month of rental or marketing time, or maybe even more, if you really, as soon as you go under contract, you're starting this process, you're starting to plan, like you said, working backwards. How are we marketing this property? How are we going to list it? what are we showcasing about this property? You even go through, I know you do this a lot and I do too. You're brainstorming like, okay, what type of design? Let's bring in a designer if we need to, or maybe it's just small changes that the buyer could make. Or, you know, you're brainstorming, how could we add, maybe it's already a furnished property. I know you just did one recently with Chris where, you know,
Yeah.
that one was already furnished, but it needed some extra little umph to it. You know, it needed some extra
Yeah.
touches, you know, brainstorming amenities, like what can we add amenities wise that's going to set this property out, like, or set it apart from the competition. So you're even doing that, you know, at this point, you've built out hundreds of short-term rental listings and worked on hundreds, maybe even thousands of short-term rental properties. And so you've seen what works and what doesn't, you know, and it's really cool. So it's like that speed from when you go under contract to when you get it launched and listed really can save you a bunch of money. And if you're not underwriting, you know, in advance what your carry costs are going to be while you take the time to get that property furnished, launched, and listed, you know, then you're kind of missing the boat on a big part of your expenses. But, you know, it's like we go under contract, we need to talk launch timeline, what software you're going to use, the channel strategies, what channels are we going on? Like we have intentionally stayed off of booking.com because it's a pain in the butt, right? You know, some people who have smaller units and are like more competing with hotels, booking.com is a great strategy for them, right? For us, we're kind of like, yeah, we'd rather not have that pain in the butt, right? And Booking, hopefully they upgrade their platforms and their systems at some point. Call out to Booking, please do that. But you know, not only do you do all that, but you're setting up the permits, the licenses, the taxes, like you said, the revenue management, the photography, the listing creation, the designer, the vendors, the cleaners, the maintenance. You know, you're building out the systems for the guest communication and automation so that it is simple. You know, 99% of my business you built out with automations, and I don't
Yeah.
have to worry about anything. You know, it's the only time is really like when a bigger maintenance thing needs to be addressed. That's
Yeah.
when I'll have to step in and make a decision of like, oh, well, we could repair it or we could replace it. What do we want to do? You know, that's really the only time I'm having to step in. So, okay, let's talk about it. I get a client, he's buying a property or she's buying a property in Florida. They go under contract, you know, and I introduce you to them. I say, hey, Rumi, talk to so and so. They're under contract. What happens next?
Well, this has happened so many times, more than 5, maybe 10 times. And shout out to all of Nikki's clients. I absolutely love them because they are the ones that hired me in the intro call. Okay. Like they were I explained, okay, this is what I'm doing. So immediately when you tell me, hey, Rumi, someone's under contract, my client's under contract, and they want to speak to you, can you set up a call? I probably don't even breathe properly. And then I'm like, okay, let me call them. And I call them immediately. You know, I introduce myself and I give them the option because I'm so far away. You know, I'm in South Africa. I do come to the US, see you in October, Nikki.
Yes.
But like, because I'm so far, I like to meet them. I like them to see me, see my face, you know, get the feel of who I am. And I just tell them what I'm going to do for them, what the plan is. I always want to see the address. I always want to see what the property is. And then the minute I see it, it's like light bulbs all the time, light bulbs just going on. Okay, how long is it going to take? Are you doing any upgrades? Are you doing any, renovations? What are you adding? How long do I have from the day that you close? Okay. And if they say, okay, we're not doing any renovations or anything, we go live within a day or two.
Mm-hmm.
That is what happened with a few clients. Their properties was ready to go live. They hired me in the intro call. I gave them the agreement. I took them through the process of what we are going to do. And they were live 2 days after closing. They got their first booking the third day after closing. That 2 weeks after they were live, they generated $11,000 of income.
Wow.
And had she at that point, had she be like, okay, let's wait, or not, she's a new host. She doesn't know what to do. She didn't know how to set up her listing or how to integrate her calendars. She got me 4 days before she closed. This was a last minute deal. So she got me 4 days before she closed. She hired me on that day. And it was done. So once I speak to you, the rest is history. You're going to probably stick with me for the rest of your life for every single property that you have. And Nikki herself is proof
Yeah, I'm your client.
of
Absolutely.
everything.
Guess what?
Yeah.
We're going to be buying another property.
Oh, well, send me the address. Let my light bulb start switching on.
I'll get you all that for sure. I've kept it on the down low until I know for sure that we're closing. So by the time
Okay,
this
great.
episode airs, we'll definitely be closed, you know? So,
Okay, good.
okay. So talk to me, like, what are some of the biggest mistakes that you see owners making, like when they build their own listings?
Okay.
Let's talk about, I know one client in particular, you had a big mess, and we won't talk about any names, but like you cleaned up the whole mess. Like, talk about some of those mistakes.
So not just, there's actually a few of my clients, right? So there's two type of clients that I assist. It's a new host, which is obvious, new host that I start from, start from the bottom, train them and everything. And then I have clients who brings me in afterwards. I didn't set up their properties. They've been running their short-term rentals for a while, and now they call me and they're like, "Hey, this is what we're doing. We don't know what's wrong. Can you help me?" Great. So the biggest mistake is that clients make, or hosts or new owners make, is that they think that they don't need a system. They think that they can do it all, and they honestly believe that they can just, okay, set their pricing and leave it. That is why you're not seeing revenue. Remember, your property is a business. It needs a system. It needs a process. You don't have time for your daily life because you do not have a PMS system. You are not monitoring your guests in one place. You are literally logging into Airbnb, logging into VRBO, logging into booking.com. Once you get a booking, you go and then you block the dates in all of the other OTAs, and it's too messy. Your pricing is all wrong. Your listing, your property is actually, your ADR is supposed to be $300 a night, but you're actually booking it for $100 a night. And what also is a bad thing is that when your prices are too high, you get no bookings.
Yeah.
So what I do is the market research. I am constantly in your listing, daily, weekly. I'm optimizing your pictures. I'm changing the layout. Remember, guests book pictures. They don't book your property. They book what they are seeing. So if your pictures are not good, they're going to just scroll past it.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of hosts just think that they can set it and leave it. You cannot set it and leave it. You need to start right from the beginning. If you start right and you build that system of your pricing is right, your calendar is right, your systems, your processing, come your second or third or fourth property, you have nothing to worry about. And it's always good to know your business. Know what you are doing, understand what you are doing. That is also something that I offer my clients is, yes, I can co-host for you. After we do the setup and everything, I can help you manage your properties. I can co-host for you, but I'm not a co-host that is just going to sit and answer your guests. I'm the co-host that is going to do everything an actual property manager would do, but I'm just an individual person. But I also train you. I show you. You see everything that goes on with your property. You see the payments, you see the listings, you see the messaging. I'm doing all of that, but I'm also creating those SOPs and those systems. And, I'm teaching you how to manage your business so that in a few years or few months' time, you won't need me to help you manage, because now you can manage your own businesses. Everything is so automated that you can do it yourself. Look at you. Everything is so automated at elite stays that neither you or I have to constantly be in our PMS 24/7. We get a notification when it's an emergency. That's when we step in.
Right.
If we need to help a guest, everything else is automated. But with hosts, You need to learn and know what you're doing in order for you to get to the point where you can just sit back and watch your business make money.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and we've done it wrong. We've done it wrong. We have launched many a properties. I've owned property management companies. I've been a part of property management companies, and I'm not anymore. I just focus on helping people broker deals. And so I'm helping people buy and sell short term rentals, but I have my own portfolio of properties and I'm always buying and selling more. And we have absolutely done it wrong. We've launched properties before they were ready. And what I mean by that is before they were ready with like, some of them didn't even have the right supplies. They didn't even have
Yeah.
enough towels or enough sheets or, and how a property like lives when you actually stay in it versus like, just how it looks is a very, very different experience. And so, that's something I would recommend is like have someone stay in your properties and actually cook and clean and live and take showers and, like actually live in that property to make sure that it has what it needs and that the experience is great, because we have definitely launched properties. I mean, a couple of the properties that I bought last year, we launched them and the rates were all messed up. And this is before we hired a revenue manager. And I'm like, what is going on? We couldn't figure out what was happening. Like the revenue management was just like over our heads. And so we actually, brought in a revenue manager. And now, we have partnerships with revenue managers. And, I saw my ADRs, which is my average daily rates, and everything increased like double because I put a skilled revenue manager in place. And, and I don't just let them do it and I forget about it. We meet with them monthly and we make sure that our portfolio is on track and we talk about busy season, we talk about upcoming events, all of that good stuff. But again, Rumi and I have done it wrong. We have launched properties wrong. We have set them up wrong. We've had tech automations go wonky, API integrations go wonky. We've had missed cleans. We've had the door codes not sent out. We've had literally all the nightmare stuff that you could think of. We have done it. Okay.
Yeah.
We've had altercations on our properties. We've had parties. We've literally done it all. And guess what? That has made us better operators. That has made us nothing. You can't pay for a course to teach you that stuff. Okay. Like that experience, Rumi's decade and my almost 20 years in this industry, you cannot go read that on an article or listen on a podcast. You have to experience that kind of stuff for it to like get into your brain and you be like 2 steps ahead of why you shouldn't do something, right? Or why you should do something. So yeah, that's pretty wild. I mean, I'm grateful for all the losses because it definitely stacked to some wins, right? So
absolutely.
yeah, it's been an awesome journey, and I'm grateful for all that we have learned. And so let's talk about, you don't do it alone, right? I don't do it alone. There is a whole team. It's like you have your remote team, which you are my remote team. You are the remote team. Your STR Done For You company. You can do just like a flat fee setup. You set it up and then you can even train them on how to use it, or you can kind of hold your hands over time. But let's talk about the boots on the ground team. So, it takes a whole team. You've got to have your remote team that knows how to operate everything online with all your listings and your integrations and your marketing and guests and all of that. But then having that relationship with the boots on the ground. Rumi, do you want to talk about like vendors and management and setup and all of that good stuff?
Yeah. So boots on the ground is the most important. I mean, STR Done For You, I could not operate if I did not have boots on the ground. And I'm so thankful for every state, every place, because I mean, I've helped owners and hosts, and I manage properties in, Broken Bow, North Carolina, South Carolina, Florida. I've got clients all over the US, right? And I am so grateful for the cleaners, the handymen, the AC, everybody that you need to help your short term rental be a success. I mean, I've got the vendor list. We know that. I source the vendors. If I don't have it, there's a chance I'm probably going to get it. But they are so important because if I'm ordering things for you yes, I'm remote. I am making the process so easy and so seamless for you. I mean, I'm coordinating everything, but my coordination would mean nothing if I had no one there to actually collect or, do the actual job. So the great part is that we've got cleaners in almost every state, in almost every county. We've got cleaners in We've got our vendors in Broken Bow, we've got them in Destin, we've got them in Northeast Florida. That is my place. I've Not where I was born, not where I was raised, but it's becoming home to me.
Maybe you'll
So
move
yeah,
one day.
I will. It's in process. Don't worry. So boots on the ground is very, very important. And I mean, you want to use people who who was referred to you
Yeah.
want to use people who has a good track record. You want to use people who has shown, like we've got cleaners, we have yet to get a cleanliness review or a cleanliness complaint. Thank the heavens for our cleaners. But I will rather take any review, the AC is broke, than a
Mm,
a cleaning issue with a guest.
yeah.
So our vendors are great. I mean, they are so helpful. They literally help me run my business. They help me run the short-term rentals. They help us. Without them, I don't think any of us can operate. So
Yeah.
our vendors are great. We've got
Yeah. And you've got to
everybody we need.
use people that are vetted and know the industry. Someone who does house cleaning for a short term rental is very different than someone who does residential or even commercial housekeeping. The rules are different. The time constraint is different. The days you work are different. The standard at which you have to have things is different. It's got to be aesthetic. The towels have got to be folded cutely. You've got to make sure that you have enough supplies. Like there's so many factors that go into how to make sure that you're set up well for each turnover. We call it turnover, when you have to clean the property. But it's like you got to make sure that you're working with people. And before I buy a property, I'm typically buying properties in markets where I'm already established. I already have my operations team, my boots on the ground, because going into a new market means you've got to find all those people, and the list is long, of all the service providers: pool people, lawn care, pest control, HVAC, electrical, plumbing, cleaners, handyman, trash. It's that list is so long. And so if we're in a market already, we can absolutely help you. But the thing is Rumi is not limited to that. She can source vendors, she can find people, she can get them set up, and make sure that those vendors are trained on how to work with you in your business, right? Because how I want things done might be differently than how someone else does.
Yeah.
It's definitely a case by case, and how you run the business. It's like you can have two hair salons on the same street, but one caters to a luxury client and gives them a hot towel and champagne and a robe and a whole steam facial and all the things. And then you can have another one that's just like, come in, sit down, get your cut, and you're out, right? Like it's how
Yeah.
you run the business. It can be extremely different. So all right, Rumi, anything that you want to leave the audience with, anything you want them to know?
Well, if you are closing or plan on buying a short-term rental and you just don't know how, call Nikki first to get you the property and then call STR Done For You. We'll set you up.
Absolutely. And all of Rumi's contact info, links, and socials will be in the show notes, so you guys can absolutely contact her. And then stay tuned, because I'm planning to do a part 2 with Rumi. We're going to dive even deeper. We're going to look at some actual case studies, some actual listings, show you guys how things are set up, how things are run, so you can kind of get a good idea of what we're actually doing here. But thank you so much for tuning in and listening
Thank you
along.
for having me.
Yes, I'm so happy that you came on. This was an awesome episode, Rumi, and you've been an
Thank you.
amazing guest. All right, guys, we will
Thank
see you
you.
soon.